Hey, everybody. Welcome to the last show before Thanksgiving. We appreciate it. We're watching you out on Restream. We see you guys there, and also on Clubhouse. If you decide you'd like to ask a question, raise your hand there, bring you up to the podium. And by raising your hand, you agree that you are willing to be streamed out on the multiple platforms that you can find us. Again, you can see us at drdrew.tv, but we're out on Twitch, Twitter, Facebook, YouTube, Rumble, you name it, we put it out there. Today, we are delighted to have Dr. J. Bhattacharya in here, professor of medicine at Stanford University. He is a physician, but he is known for research, where he's a research associate at the National Bureau of Economics Research, senior fellow at the Stanford Institute for Economic Policy Research, and at the Stanford Freeman Spogli Institute. His research typically is focused on economics of healthcare, but he's had some important things to say about our approach to this pandemic, and had the opportunity to interview him once before, and I'm so fascinated to hear how his point of view has changed and progressed, and look very forward to this conversation. Dr. Bhattacharya, thank you for joining me.
Thanks, Dr. Drew. Nice to be here.
So let's start out with that. Last time I talked to you, there was a lot of head shaking, like how did we get here? What's going on? Why did we make the choices we made? Concerns about some of the choices. And again, some of the positions have been sort of extreme, even coming up to the present moment. And there's a lot of continued head shaking. I've interviewed people like Arthur Kaplan, who was very actively involved in advising some of the policy positions. Arthur's a medical ethicist at Hopkins or NYU. And I said, why did they make these decisions? He said, it was panic. It was panic. I thought, wow, that is the worst possible answer. If we're making medical decisions based on panic, I am gravely, gravely concerned. And I continue to be concerned that panic has become a guiding principle in the public health decision-making. Where do you see things today? Let's start with, for instance, wherever you like. We can do lockdowns, mandates of vaccines, masking in children. Pick your poison.
Why don't we start with lockdowns? Because they're starting to come back in places all through Europe. Actually, the lockdowns did not work. We should start with that. What you want to think about is, did they stop the spread of the disease? Obviously, it's failed. It's failed basically everywhere. Even places where there was supposed success, like Australia and New Zealand, the disease is there. What they have done is cause absolutely catastrophic damage to the health of the population everywhere they've been tried. Right. So there was a story just last week that there were 100,000 deaths from drug overdoses in the United States.
Right.
That's a lockdown death. Those are lockdown deaths.
How dare you say that? Yeah, at least the acceleration of overdose deaths. We've gone from 70 to 100 over the course of the pandemic, I'd say. Yeah, I agree. And by the way, the slope is it's asymptotic. It's actually asymptotic. It's not just a stable slope. It's accelerating.
If you look at the data, it's like it coincides with the institution of the lockdown in March of last year. I mean, it starts that steep slope. People got depression. Plays an important role in those kinds of overdoses and the acceleration of them, as you say. The last time around in 2008 during the financial collapse, we had these deaths of despair. Well, what are these? Mm-hmm. I mean, the lockdowns, the panic that the lockdowns caused are leading to these deaths of despair. Women are now coming in with breast cancer at later stages that should have been picked up last year because we skipped mammograms. That's true for men and women for colon cancer. We're seeing catastrophic learning loss for children, especially poor children.
That's where I'm concerned. That's the bigger issue, I think, on the long durée, so to speak, because we are particularly the underserved, and particularly people who are typically underserved are being grotesquely underserved. And I would call it a racist policy, because clearly there's a systemic racist component to this. Why people who are concerned about these things don't call that out, I don't understand. But okay, but it's going to create poverty. It's going to create, when I look, by the way, so there's the one thing, it was the educational disparities and the poverty that's going to create. But the second thing, when you look at the data of 8 to 15-year-olds and their anxiety and depression scales, it's going crazy. It's off the chain. And so we have mental health crisis on top of developmental educational crises. I'll let you comment.
I mean, it's the biggest contributors to inequality since. I mean, you can pick your segregation. I mean, it is devastating, right? I mean, in fact, that's the dirty secret of lockdowns, right? So, how do lockdowns actually work in real practice? I mean, in theory, it's like, oh, we all stay apart and we stop the disease. In practice, what it is a certain class of people, they get protected. I can work from home. But someone's making my food, someone's delivering it to me, someone's delivering the Amazon boxes, someone's keeping society going. Well, that's like 70% of the population, the working class, where the lockdown just exposes them, right, and harms them. And for schools, it was public schools that closed preferentially in California. Private schools, many of them stayed open. Many richer parents got tutors to replace, they got pods to replace. Poor kids basically had to suffer. And you're absolutely right. The long-term consequences are terrible, right? So if you don't just have schooling loss and you have nothing comes out of it, the kid doesn't learn how to read. Well, that has some knock-on effects that last a very long time. They're not so resilient that we can catch up very easily. And this will lead to shorter lives for these kids, poor because they'll be poorer. I think these are the kind of like second-order effects that you would think about as if you weren't panicked. And yet we keep panicking whenever we see cases go up.
Right. Yes. So what is wrong with our public health professionals or their training? And by the way, the astonishing thing to me is it's not just the United States. It seems to be public health, practitioners all over the globe, at least on the Western globe, that they seem unable to make a risk-reward analysis. Unable. So I guess my big question is what's wrong with them? And why did they go back to lockdowns?
I mean, I think part of this is policy hysteresis, by which I mean, like, once you've stuck yourself into a path, it's really hard to get off of the path, right? So Arthur Caplan's right. We panicked in March of 2020, and then the panic resulted in lockdowns, which didn't solve the problem. And there are people with big egos, lots of power that say, well, I can't admit I was wrong. And they also they're blind to second order effects. That's pretty clear. They're blind to the harms, these collateral harms of the lockdowns, so they just keep doing it. They're in power and they won't let go. And that's true. In huge, like all through Europe, you're seeing like Austria has had this lockdown. We're seeing lockdowns reimposed everywhere in response to the case rises, even though last year they did very little to actually stop very much of the spread of the disease.
And there's a sort of a pragmatic piece of this, I think, that might change the direction of these people that can't change direction or admit they're wrong, which is that when they really see what Abraham Lincoln used to call the public mind, when the public mind really turns against them, then they start worrying about their job. Then maybe they'll change directions.
Well, I think there is some hope around that front. So like the election in Virginia, I believe, centered, I mean, everyone talked about CRT. I actually think it was school closures was the fundamental thing. Because regular people, not involved with politics, their kids skipped, I think Virginia had the 7th most missed school days in 2020, 2021. 7th most in the country. So it's not surprised that parents in Virginia said, what the heck, these people that have made a commitment to educating my kids failed in that commitment. I mean, and you look around, you see Florida had all its kids in school all year with basically the same results as far as COVID is concerned, but much better results for the kids.
Right.
I mean, I completely.
Why can't
agree.
we look at that? Why can't anybody admit that? Wait! You said something publicly just now that is anathema. What should we call that? You're a sinner. What do we call when people get off the that we? Oh crap! I can't think of the language for this, but it's religious language. Really? Why can't you talk? What is it?
I'm a heretic.
Apostate. You're apostate. That's the word I was looking for. You're an apostate. How dare you say that about Florida? That's impossible. How dare you?
I mean, it's actually stunning, right? You look at the data. Florida's been through 4 big COVID waves. California's been through 3 big COVID waves. The age-adjusted death rate from Florida and California are almost identical from COVID deaths. excess death rates. By excess deaths, I mean you look at how many deaths there were from 2015 to 2019, and that's your baseline. How many deaths above and beyond that were there in 2020, 2021 in Florida versus California? It's almost identical. Florida and California has had the same number of excess deaths. So what have we gained from this 18 months of panic in California, whereas Florida has been free? Their unemployment rate's 4%, ours is 7%. Their kids were in school 100%. Our kids skipped more or less almost a full 180 days. I mean, like maybe they went in for 10 days. We have got our businesses are crushed. Our health services on other health priorities have been skipped. What did we gain from this? I mean, honestly, what did we gain? I think you're right. It's going to be the people that pull us out of this, not the elite.
Is somebody doing research to post-mortem this, to really publish data and in peer-reviewed settings to really address these questions?
Yeah, that's starting to happen. So I'm working with a group in the UK. Right. It's a charity actually called collateralglobal.org, and we're commissioning research to document. So one of the things, for instance, we commissioned was childhood vaccinations. Turns out childhood vaccinations like MMR, DPT, vaccines that are absolutely vital for public health, that's collapsed around both in developed countries and developing countries. Less so in developed countries, but certainly in developing countries. A huge deficit in kids getting basic vaccines, again because of the lockdowns. We closed down our access to healthcare so that kids wouldn't get vaccines. It's so short-sighted, Drew. I can't even begin to. But there is research starting to happen, and the story's going to come out. It's starting to come out already.
And the World Health Organization, in the middle of the pandemic, came down hard against lockdowns and then shut up. I found that bizarre. They were like, absolutely, just contributes to poverty. Don't do it. And then they started. I don't know what their position was, but let me ask you this.
Sorry.
Go ahead.
Yeah, I was going to say the history of that was interesting. Like, I wrote a piece called The Great Barrington Declaration in October of last year, October 2020, and it called essentially for an end to lockdowns, focused protection for the vulnerable, end to lockdowns. Vulnerable meaning older people who actually are at high risk from COVID, and it's in response to that some people in the WHO said, no, we don't actually support lockdowns. We shouldn't do a lockdown. It hurts the poor. It's not a good idea. Then they changed their mind. They shifted their strategy. They changed the definition of herd immunity to say, natural infections doesn't induce immunity, which is, anti-science doesn't begin to describe it. 100 years of immunology thrown out the window, and they went back essentially to a tacit policy arguing for lockdowns, or at least not strongly pushing up against them. And the consequences are tragic. Look at what's happened in Peru. They've had one of the strictest lockdowns in the world. They have the highest death rate from COVID in the world, and they've devastated the poor. It is absolutely mind-boggling what we've done. Public health needs to get on its knees and apologize for what we've done to the world.
Well, I agree. I saw that from the beginning. Now, I misjudged some of the elements of the virus, but I could see what public health was doing. And by the way, the other thing that Art Kaplan said was that if Wuhan didn't do what they did, we wouldn't have done what we did. So literally, the Chinese Communist Party, which looked to me like they were activating something they had rehearsed. Like this was a rehearsed procedure should something get out of a lab. Trucks going down the streets with chlorine. I mean, it looked highly orchestrated. Now, they could do that from the ground up, I guess, very quickly the way they're constituted. But it looked rehearsed. It looked like we have this all on hand should an emergency arrive out from that lab. And that becomes our public health policy? That's like, it's too much to be believed almost.
I mean, it looked like a propaganda campaign to me. I have to say, not quite at the time, but in retrospect. But at the same time, you saw I think it was February, we saw these images out of Italy, which were shocking, right? You saw we saw coffins lined up in cathedrals. We saw overwhelmed hospital systems. And so I think the World Health Organization, you can see it in Fauci's treasure trove of emails that were released to BuzzFeed. They panicked around. They looked at China. They looked at Italy. and they said, "Oh gosh, we don't want to be like Italy. We want to be like China." And China locked down.
And in what world? And let's just you and I both have been raised in this healthcare system, trained in this healthcare system. In what world are we ever going to be like Italy? Now, and not just Italy, a little local district of Italy too, where we have never been and will never be like that. You agree?
Yeah, I mean, the Italian system is overwhelmed at baseline almost. So it's,
at baseline, yes.
Yeah, I mean, the U.S. system is so different, right, than the Italian system. But we looked at.
I knew we would flex. I knew we would respond. I knew we would flex. Yeah. I knew we would respond. When the Oxford University data started coming out, 2 million deaths in the first year, I was like, no, we won't. That will not happen. That we'll respond in some way. We'll find ways to deal with this. We'll improvise. We'll do stuff. Now, I was shocked to see the degree to which we didn't do that at the beginning. That was very stunning to me, and I know that was part of the Great Barrington Declaration. But even so, we did have. Go ahead.
Oh, I'm sorry. Yeah, I mean,
the thing is, there's a little delay here. So if I start talking, just please barrel through. I'll stop.
No worries. So the thing what happened is we had that 2 million. Forecast of 2 million deaths by the Imperial College people, right? The Trump brought in Fauci and Birx. They told him about the 2 million. He said, okay, well, let's lock down everything. And Fauci and Birx advised him to lock down everything because what people thought was going to be scarce was hospital beds. We need to preserve hospital beds, and that's actually the reason why. You wonder why did Governor Cuomo send COVID-infected patients back to nursing homes? It's because he thought, at least in part of it, is that the scarce thing is hospital beds. We have to keep hospital beds open. In fact, what was scarce was protection of the old and vulnerable. That was the key thing. Most of the country actually in March 2020 weren't even close to overwhelmed. Most hospital systems actually were empty in March 2020. We passed this massive bill, this CARES Act bill, to bail hospitals out that were going bankrupt because they saw their census drop by like 30, 40, 50% in some cases. And so you had a situation where we were optimizing against the wrong thing. You could look at the data from China. So many deaths were older people. That should have told us what to do. Protect old people, leave society alone, let it move on as best as it can. And in April of 2020, I did this study where we measured the prevalence in the population of COVID in Santa Clara County and in LA County. In LA County, we found 4%. 4%, right? So now that doesn't sound like a big number. I mean, that tells you that we were early in the disease. So a seroprevalence study for listeners, it means it's how many people in the population have antibodies to COVID, to the SARS-CoV-2 virus. And it turned out to be 4%. It tells you two things, or three things. One is that we're still early in the course of the disease, right? We still have long. That turned out to be true. The second thing it tells you is we cannot get to zero. 4% was 50 times or 40 times more infections than the public health authorities knew about at the time in April of 2020. If you can't identify the infections, and there was no hope of identifying, you're not going to get to zero. It's already too for the cat's out of the bag. We're not in a place in this world where zero COVID is ever going to happen. We knew that in April 2020.
Right.
And then third, the death rate's lower than you think.
And I remember in California when they had that red, orange, green, yellow system, and I was on a news broadcast and I kept saying, these first of all made up numbers, completely made up. They just picked them out of the sky, and we're never getting to green. Never. It's never going to happen. I could see this is going to be an endemic virus. No way. Well, now guess what? Endemic virus. How about apologies from some of these people? I mean, they just. You know what I mean? It's like, it's too much. And in the meantime, down here they were punishing people. Can't lay down on the beach. Can't eat outdoors. I mean, things that were, and then saying follow the science in the same breath, which is again, it makes me choke on the fact that they did that.
I remember there was like some image out of in the early days of the epidemics of like police on the beach chasing down a surfer on the like Santa Monica, right? It was just insane. Yeah. It's like they're outdoors. There's no evidence of the disease spreading outdoors. It's healthy to be out. We did every single thing we could do wrong. We did wrong.
Right. To me, the beach business and you can't lay down. You can go to the beach, you can't lay down on a towel. That is the level of incompetence that we were dealing with. It's just grotesque incompetence. I see it for what it is. Incompetence. Admit it, people. Incompetent. Come on. Let me ask this. We should.
Yeah, wait a minute. They should. I agree with you. We should get down on our knees and apologize for what we did. Our class of people. Right?
Agreed. So early on, you put out the Great Barrington Declaration, and that was immediately seen as sort of a Trump-esque sort of a document. How did it get politicized? You were just trying to bring some reason, it seemed to me, into the conversation, and it was immediately sort of called out as all kinds of things that it wasn't. So my question is, what do you think happened there? And did that impair your ability to be heard as a rational representative of the research community?
Yeah, I think so. We wrote it in October 2020. It was intended as an international document. Hundreds of thousands of people around the world literally from around the world signed it. The UK was having its debate about whether there should be a fall lockdown. We wanted to enter that debate. Countries all through Europe and the developing world were also. At the same time, it's October 2020, and there's about to be this election the small election that happened in the next month in the U.S. I don't do politics for a living. I do public health research for a living. I had no idea the political firestorm I was entering when I wrote the Great Barrington Declaration. So what happened was it caught on. It sort of went viral. Tens of thousands of doctors signed it, and 15,000 scientists signed it. And so it made it clear that the idea that there's a consensus in favor of lockdown was not true. In fact, that is itself still a lie. It is not true that most of the science says you should do lockdowns. That is a falsehood. Now, for Dr. Fauci, it was a political problem to be solved. And the way he solved it was through propaganda. He called it nonsense. He characterized a strategy which the key feature of that strategy is focused protection of the vulnerable. Focus protection of the vulnerable, right? So protecting
as we have always done in a pandemic. As we've always done in a pandemic. Isolate, and restrict in the sick or vulnerable.
Exactly. But for the rest of society, don't panic, people. Try to keep things going as best as you can. People are going to be scared, but you want to reassure them and give them resources to deal with the fear, not stoke it. He characterized that proposal, which is the same policy we follow for 100 years of pandemics. He characterized as a let it rip strategy. He effectively called the authors of it and the co-signers of it evil, because irresponsible for wanting to let the kids go to school.
And by the way, his pandemic policies, if you roll back, say 5 years or 10 years and look at their actual pandemic policies, it would look like the Great Barrington Declaration, wouldn't it?
Absolutely. In 2009, we followed effectively the Great Barrington Declaration, although it wasn't called that at the time, during the H1N1 epidemic.
I recently learned about a great product line formulated using a novel scientific breakthrough. It is called Active Skin Repair, and my whole family uses it and loves it, including our new granddaughter. Actually, her parents were using it for diaper rash and other skin irritations before we learned about it. It's a baby-strength spray made from naturally occurring molecule called HOCl.
The technology was just kind of really mind-blowing to me on how simple but how effective it was.
HOCl is a non-toxic, clinically proven antimicrobial molecule been used in hospital for a long time, and it's actually produced by our own immune system. The applications are numerous: wound healing, insect bites, even eczema, rosacea, other inflammatory skin conditions.
What's really cool about it is, again, no toxicity. So you're not using any harsh antiseptics. It's non-cytotoxic. So when you're putting it on, you're killing the bacteria, but you're not hurting any of those healthy cells that your body's producing to actually help heal itself.
Active Skin Repair Spray also comes in a kid versus an adult version. Get yours at drdrew.com/skin repair for 20% off. That again is drdrew.com/skin repair for a 20% discount. Well, you've heard me praise Paleo Valley's grass-fed finished beef bone broth and the delicious meat sticks. I now want to turn it over to Paleo Valley founder and CEO Autumn Smith to tell you about her company's food philosophy.
I'm here to help create the products that make healthy food convenient in our modern world. The diet and the food you're consuming is absolutely related to your digestive health, to your mental health, to every aspect of your health. The devil's in the details here. And not only do we have to attend to every single ingredient, we have to support a system with whole foods. And so when we source a product, it's going to be organic, it's going to be tested for pesticides, and then it's going to be grass-fed and finished or pasture-raised. It's going to be raised on regenerative American farms.
The protein sticks that come in 8 varieties are likewise impeccably sourced and prepared.
And the fermentation process came about because there was an ingredient that I didn't like in meat sticks that's pretty widespread. It's called encapsulated citric acid, and it's derived from GMOs and then hydrogenated oil, and it just melts into the beef stick, and you don't have to label it. That's the thing. You can label it citric acid.
Make 2025 a year to cut out the chemicals and feed yourself correctly. Go to drdrew.com/PaleoValley for 15% off your first order, 20% off when you subscribe. That is drdrew.com/PaleoValley.
Well, your comment raises a thought. You know, if we didn't have Zoom, I actually think we wouldn't have had a lockdown, right? In 2009, there was no Zoom, and so a lockdown would have affected the jobs of people like you and me. Where
everybody it would have been a different thing. That's true.
Oh, 30% of people have jobs being replaced.
Yeah,
and so they don't feel pain.
And is the Great Barrington Declaration coming back and being looked at again? And is it part of the postmortem? Are people going, why didn't we look at this? And why aren't we doing things like this going forward?
I mean, I think if you look at what's the end state of COVID, country after country is adopting something like the Great Barrington Declaration. You know, reasonable countries have said, okay, it's not going away. COVID is not going away. It's endemic, just like you say, right? And if it's not going away, well, what's the alternative? Well, there really isn't one other than protection of the vulnerable through vaccines now, right? Because those are fantastically effective against severe disease and death. And let's stop disrupting society. So the UK, for instance, has adopted a policy like this. Half the United States has adopted a policy like this, I think, just not California. I think their country after country is looking at what actually is possible, realizing lockdowns are devastating. They're not getting you to zero COVID. The disease isn't going away because we panic.
Of course not.
And they're adopting this idea. It's. I mean, in a way, it's kind of a trick, right? It's an old idea. We relabeled it, and so it's not an old. It's an old idea for a good reason because it's worked so many times in the past, and it'll work again.
Right. That's right. Exactly right. And they're just not saying it out loud. That eventually, most all of us are going to have some sort of hybrid immunity of vaccine and natural immunity, and that's probably the most robust thing we could have. I'm looking at the Restream comments here, and Andrew Ashkasvili, I'm not quite sure you're asking me. Please restate that question. I will ask it of Dr. Bhattacharya, because I'm not quite sure what you're getting at there. So it also brings up the question now of, what are there other things to be done to mitigate? And what about masks? What do we do with that data? And people are behaving as though not masking is like firing bullets around with your saliva or something, when in fact masks are maybe 20% effective, something like that. And I'm sure you're aware, this is back to why people are doing things they're doing. You must have seen the study at Stanford where somebody looked at the number of Stanford students riding a bike with helmet versus a mask. It was 60% mask, 20% helmet. That tells you all you need to know in terms of follow the science.
I mean, I think we're headed into a winter wave. I mean, California still is low, but it seems likely like it's going to follow much of the rest of the country into its Delta wave. We'll still, there's still older people that are unprotected with the vaccine. It's very important to try to convince them, especially because they face such high risk to COVID, to get the vaccine. I don't think you need the vaccine to stop the disease. The vaccine doesn't stop disease transmission. That is very clear. Highly vaccinated countries have seen the disease spread widely. Israel, Iceland, the UK, the US have seen. So the vaccine is not the key to stopping the disease. Nothing we have stops the disease from spreading. So
Right.
we have to do focused protection. Like older people are still going to need to be a little more careful, especially if they're not vaccinated.
And I would argue mitigate the effect of the illness with monoclonal antibodies, antivirals, vaccine therapies. We just make it a less serious illness, like we do with every illness. We do with
That's
everything. And now we have those things.
It's a really, really good reminder.
Yeah.
We're much better positioned to deal with this. If you get the disease, we actually have effective treatments. Let's tell people that. That should be like cause for celebration. Let's trump that up widely, right?
Although I'm a little mystified why they're not rushing those things out. I mean, some countries are getting them already, the molnupiravir, and I think the Pfizer drug too, because they were part of the research protocol where they saw the proof of the pudding. They saw what happened, and they're like, "Get me this stuff now. Let's put an end to this thing." Somebody asked a question. I want to make sure I get it right here. Apparently, you predicted a herd immunity for Alpha by April 2021. Do you have a similar prediction for Delta?
So I don't remember predicting any timing for herd immunity. I think herd immunity here, what it means is something. Sometimes people think of that as zero COVID, right? Like if we have herd immunity, the disease is gone. This is like other coronaviruses. Like you have immunity. The population immune may decline over time. It's seasonal, so the level of you needed for immune in order to protect against disease spread, epidemic disease spread, it will be higher in season than in out of season. And so what you'll do is you'll get like waves of this. The key thing to remember though is that the second time you get this disease, or if you get the disease after you've had the vaccine, you're going to have a much milder course of the disease. Mm-hmm. Eventually, everyone on Earth will face this disease, will face the virus. Mm-hmm.
And by the way, if you have molnupiravir in your pocket, or the I'm forgetting the name of the Pfizer drug. It's hold on, I'm going to get it for you. The Paxlovid. Then it's what are we worried about? What's the big? If you're 85, you got a little something to worry about. But if you're 65 or you're 40, you got nothing to worry about.
Yeah, no, I completely agree with that. And I think, like if you're worried as a 45-year-old, carry the drug around anyways, right? And there's monoclonal antibodies. The key thing is that over time, at a few years, you'll have faced it multiple times. You'll find that it's going to be milder the second time you get it, milder the third time you get it. Eventually, the next time you get it, the nth time you get it, it'll be a cold, because your body remembers how to fight it off, right?
Think about how coronaviruses affect like nursery school age kids and things. They get these upper respiratory infections like crazy, and then by the time they're adults, guess what? They're not getting them so much. Same virus is sort of taken care of. But let's talk for a minute about a mask. I have to take a break in a few minutes, but I want to do the mask talk here. Finish that mask. I brought it up. What do we do with that? I mean, certainly underage 6 seems insane to me, and the World Health Organization agrees with me on that. Again, in terms of the unintended consequences, it seems to me we are inculcating oppositional defiance disorder in children, because fighting children to wear something over their face. I mean, I can't imagine a more distinct way to create a personality problem than that. Not only that, we're not allowing them the opportunity to spend face-to-face time sharing emotion with adults, which is how they build their emotion, how they build their fully sense of self. We're not giving them that opportunity because our faces are covered. So what about masks? Certainly under age 6, I'm gonna take you on that one if you think we should be going under age 6. But generally, I mean, mask mandates. Mask mandates though just seem. I mean, the fact that people wear them outside tells me everything I need to know. It just seems. I don't know. What would a rational mask policy look like?
So I think masks have some use. So for instance, in nursing homes where you're around vulnerable people, in hospitals where, obviously people, and people are trained to use them
Doctors'
effectively.
Offices.
Absolutely. I think masks are a useful tool in the settings where they're most likely to be useful. They are useless out of doors because the disease does not spread very efficiently out of doors in any case. For toddlers, we're the only foolish country on earth that masks toddlers. The European CDC does not recommend masking toddlers. The World Health Organization does not recommend masking toddlers. It is mind-boggling to me that anyone thinks that masking a toddler will have any effect on disease spread. There's never been demonstrated, and is unlikely to ever be demonstrated that is the case. And you bring up something very important, and this has shocked me. The idea that masking toddlers and children has no effect on their development at all. The AAP, the American Association of Pediatrics, actually said something like that. How can they think that? Like it is. I want them. It's one of these things where, like, prove it to me. You have to prove to me that there is no harm. The default position, you would never be able to organize a study aimed at showing, does masking harm children, does masking stop development? Because it would be unethical to run such a study. The default position is do no harm. Show me that it does no harm first.
Yeah, it's again very strange times. Has the American Academy of Pediatrics come down in favor of under 6-year-olds? I can't believe that.
Yes, yeah, they did.
Oh,
they did. It came out.
Why? Well, based on what? Panic again. I don't know.
Yeah, I'm at a loss to explain it, because it violates every evidence-based medicine standard I've ever, I grew up with. Like, we have to look at the evidence and deal with what the evidence actually says. And there's no good evidence that doesn't harm people, harm kids. And the default, I think, is there are going to be kids like developmentally disabled kids and others that have difficulty with language acquisition. They're going to have trouble as a result of these masks on toddlers. It makes no sense.
When our peers take you on, when they disagree with you, what is the sort of grounds on which they wish to disagree, or what's the data that they'll point at, or does no one push back on you that has a sufficient standing to be considered a peer?
Well, I guess Dr. Fauci is pushing back on me. I think part of the problem is that it's an epistemological problem. Like, what's the standard of evidence, the standard of knowing? Right. So almost all through the epidemic, the idea has been we should follow the precautionary principle. Precautionary principle in this case means, we don't know. This is a new thing. We don't know how bad it is. So we should do everything we can to stop it, even if we don't know for a fact. This is like it epitomized by this idea of this Swiss cheese model. I don't know if you've heard of that, I'm sure, right? So we have layer after layer after layer. There are all kinds of holes in them. But if you put enough layers together, eventually you stop the disease from spreading. The key thing about that is you don't have to have any evidence, any good evidence for any particular layer. And any piece of evidence that says, this layer doesn't work, the response is, it's just okay, it's leaky, but it's one more layer. What's the problem? The big problem with that, though, is that each layer causes harms, and you can't just pretend like, even in the precautionary principle, the thing you're doing is benign. Lockdowns are a fantastic example of this. There's no way on earth that anyone can now look at these things and say they're benign. You have to, if you're responsible, consider both possible benefits and the harms. And I think a lot of my peers that try to push back on me will tell me, there's possible benefits. They'll try to point to which to my mind looks like weak evidence of benefits, but they will very rarely squarely look at the harms and say, we own that.
Yeah, never. And you call it the precautionary principle, and it's interesting to me that I think that's still prevalent way of thinking in terms of the vaccine, which is, vaccine does some bad stuff, but we're not going to, nobody's allowed to talk about that because, it's still the best of options here. And I don't necessarily disagree with that because, extraordinary times call for extraordinary things, but lack of transparency is how you create 80-year-olds not taking the vaccine, frankly, because that's the problem here.
Completely agree with that. I think like this, the smallpox vaccine, the old, the disease we eradicated, but it was a vaccine that was it would kill 1 in a million people that took it. It would put thousands and thousands of people into the hospital every year. The vaccine would. And people took it knowing that because they knew that smallpox itself was so deadly. And you get high uptake by being honest about these things, not by hiding. Like, so for instance, this vaccine, for young men, the mRNA vaccines cause somewhere between 1 in 5,000 to 1 in 10,000 men to get myocarditis. That is, pretty solidly known. Telling young men that is a very important part of convincing young men to take the vaccine. Telling young men, everyone that is a very important part of convincing everyone, because then people won't think that you're snowing them over. They'll realize you're giving them honestly. Here's the benefits. Here's the risks, and then you can make a decision based on your sort of your values, right? I think what's happened is we've sort of confused the public and the private benefit of the vaccine. The vaccine protects me. When I get the vaccine, I will have a less severe disease course than when I get COVID than if I didn't have the vaccine on board. That's great. Fantastic news. It is much less good at protecting you because I will get COVID. I had COVID actually. I got the vaccine in April and I got COVID in August. Just happens. I mean,
Perfect
the
timing.
vaccine is not.
Now you have nice hybrid immunity. Good timing.
I got the tiger blood. I'm all good. So yeah, I think but if that's true, then why are we thinking about this vaccine as we have to force everyone to get it? The right way to think about this vaccine is let's convince people to get it, especially those who are vulnerable.
We've also abandoned the basic ethics of vaccine therapeutics, which is the vaccine must benefit the individual. Must be a clear benefit to the individual. If they also would like to take on the benefit to everybody else, I encourage them to do so. But the actual ethic is it must be worth the risk reward for the individual. And I find it bizarre that we're not helping physicians talk to 15-year-old males about, in certain countries, if they space it out by 12 weeks as opposed to 4 weeks, they're seeing less myocarditis. Maybe we do that. And oh, by the way, you're a running back on the football field. I kind of want to watch you for 2 weeks after you take the vaccine. And maybe we want to take the vaccine during basketball season. You're off season there because bad things can happen with exertion and myocarditis in a 15-year-old. And we're going to see it. It's inevitable. We're going to see it. And if it's in the setting of a mandate, that's when people are going to go crazy, and it's going to be impossible to get vaccine uptake. That's what worries me. That's my nightmare.
Oh, but that's happening, Drew. It's like what we're seeing a collapse in the demand for the other DPT, MMR childhood vaccines. It's really disheartening. And I think you're absolutely right. Like, there are countries that have banned the Moderna vaccine for the under 30. Major European countries that banned because of the myocarditis risk. For children, children die from COVID at very, 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 very low rates, vanishingly low rates.
Well, let's be clear. Let's be clear. The data is, I just looked it up a couple of days ago. 700 children have died of COVID across the pandemic, 700. And of those, 680 had severe pre-existing conditions. So 20 healthy children have died of COVID in the entire pandemic.
Yeah, I mean, thank God, right? That it's not thank God for those kids, because that's really sad. But thank God that it's such a low rate. We have millions and millions of kids who've got COVID, and only a few of them have died. It's the same thing with the flu, right? The flu kills a few kids every year, and it's a sad thing. But thank God it's not higher rates. So what you have is a situation where the risk of COVID, of death, of harm, severe harm from COVID in children is very low. Any risk of side effects whatsoever may cut against giving the vaccine to the kids. And it should be an individual choice. Let the parents talk about it with their pediatricians and make a decision, an informed decision based on the health of the kid and so on. Not a mandate. Certainly don't say you can't go to school if you don't get the vaccine. That is because that harms kids, not allowing them to go to school.
How do you reconcile that and the being worried about that mandate versus a mandate for measles vaccine, say?
Yeah, so let's use your principle, because I think that's really useful. Measles, if it is an epidemic measles and you're likely to get measles, if a kid gets measles, that's a deadly disease for the kid. You're protecting them against a very deadly condition. Now, measles is low rates in the population because of herd immunity. And so you're unlikely to face measles. So the rate of death from measles in the U.S. is low. So even if you're not vaccinated, it's going to be low because you're depending on others to be vaccinated to protect you, right? Measles vaccine does protect the spread of the measles because it protects you against infection, unlike COVID, where the COVID vaccine, which doesn't do that. So you have two things that are very different. One is you're protecting the kid against a disease that's harmful to them, really harmful to them by the measles vaccine. And you also have the public benefit of protecting others. Both push in favor of mandatory vaccinations for measles, but not for the COVID vaccine.
Right. So let's just say it again. The measles is people don't appreciate how deadly measles can be to kids, and measles encephalitis. It's awful. Number one. Number two, you can get herd immunity with the measles vaccine. You can get it, and the R naught on measles is way higher than COVID, and so it's a situation that the decision making, the risk reward is completely different. Now, could we get to a point where the risk reward starts to look different for COVID? Sure, it can look different as this thing evolves. But right now, it's a very different consideration. Let me take a little break here, and we're going to take some calls when we get back, see what kind of questions people have. And I want to pick your brain a little bit about moving forward. What's next? How do we get out of this thing? What are your thoughts? What are your concerns? We're with Dr. Jay Bhattacharya, professor of medicine at Stanford University. You can follow him at DRJ Bhattacharya. I suggest you look at my screen here to understand how to spell his name, because if I will spell it out. I hope I get it right. Bhattacharya. I get it?
Yep, you got it.
Yeah, I got it. All right. It's on Twitter, Dr. J Bhattacharya, and we'll be back in just a moment. If there was ever a time to be rationally ready, it is now. I urge you to consider getting one of the emergency kits from the Wellness Company, because CWC has 7 different kits that are customized for a variety of situations. Wouldn't be a bad idea to take a look at each, considering, say, what we've just been through in California with the fires. I was happy to have the field kit on hand, and the Contagion kit in particular is suited for what is being predicted to be the next outbreak. That would be the H1N5 or avian or bird flu. Of course, the same experts from the COVID era are freaking out about this potential pandemic. But don't panic. Just arm yourself with the meds you might need if this comes to pass. Contagion Emergency Kit contains ivermectin, hydroxychloroquine, azithromycin, Tamiflu, and budesonide, an inhaler that is good for airway reactivity and tightness, as well as reducing viral replication in the airways. Go to drdrew.com/TWC for 10% off your purchase. I'm excited to bring you a new product, a new supplement, Fatty. I take it. I make Susan take it. My whole family takes it. This comes out of, believe it or not, dolphin research. The Navy maintains a fleet of dolphins, and a brilliant veterinarian recognized that these dolphins sometimes developed a syndrome identical to our Alzheimer's disease. Those dolphins were deficient in a particular fatty acid. She replaced the fatty acid, and they didn't get the Alzheimer's. Humans have the same issue, and we are more deficient in this particular fatty acid than ever before. And a simple replacement of this fatty acid called C15 will help us prevent these syndromes. It's published in a recent journal called Metabolites. It's a new nutritional C15, pentadecanoic acid it's called. The deficiency that we are developing for C15 creates something called the cellular fragility syndrome. This is the first nutritional deficiency syndrome to be discovered in 75 years and may be affecting us in many ways, and as many as 1 in 3 of us. This is an important breakthrough. Take advantage of it. Go to fatty15.com/Dr. Drew to receive 15% off a 90-day starter kit subscription, or use code Dr. Drew at checkout for that 15% off, or just go to our website, drdrew.com/fatty15. Dr. Jay Bhattacharya in here. Let's bring him on back. I'm going to go to some questions from the Clubhouse audience. Again, raise your hand if you'd like to ask Dr. Bhattacharya a question. Before we go to the calls, though, what do you see going forward? What's your crystal ball tell you? Like when are we going to sort of get? In other words, what frightens me is the people who've been making these decisions have been making them in such arbitrary, bizarre, panic-stricken ways. What's to prevent them from keeping going with that, even when we have this thing in hand? I mean, I expect by January to have really good antivirals, to have much more vaccine penetration, to have a lot of hybrid immunities circulating around, and let's just stop. Let's call it over. Let's call it a game and learn to live with this thing the way we do with so many other illnesses.
I mean, I see one of 2 paths forward, and I tell you which one I want. I see one path where we continue to organize our society around the suppression of a single infectious disease. That, I think, is true for half the country and not true for the other half of the country. It's true in many other places on Earth. And it is hard to understand how the folks who put us in this situation will by themselves take themselves out of it. Right? Their egos and power are built around that. On the other hand, we have a path which you just described, which I think could happen. Right? You get these antivirals that are developed. We tell people about we've vaccinated a very large fraction of the population already. They're protected. A large fraction of the population already got the disease and recovered and are protected. We start sort of scaling back and move toward normal life. That's true again for half the country already. We essentially get this rebirth of freedom, where we can go back to arguing about budget deficits or something. I think that is going to be, that's likely that's the path I hope to have. I do think that it's a close call. In some places, the people that are in power that have had a very good pandemic will continue to want to be it. But I think, the fear is really the crux of it. If we as a medical profession can start to address the fear of COVID, a lot of the power that people have to impose these policies will sap away.
Right. I was going to bring up that you talk about the precautionary principle, but I'm afraid the precautionary principle, which is actually not a principle I would take issue with, it's just that it got morphed into safety uber alles. And that's insanity. That's insanity. I mean, you then have to not drive cars. You have to not ride bikes. Safety is your ultimate virtue. We got problems.
I mean, it's not actually safe to keep yourself so safe. Like, you can sit in a bubble in your own home, and you know what? That's not actually a safe thing to do. You got to live your life. And I think reminding people of that. People know that. We're so scared of COVID that we forgot it.
It certainly isn't a good life. That's the thing that people have forgotten, that there is a difference between a long life, a safe life, and a good life. And I would hope it would help get us a chance to refocus on what a good life entails. And it's not, sitting, it's just not what we've been doing. And so much of the rhetoric around it was just disgusting. It's like, people are only interested in money. They just want to be working and making money. No. We want to be engaged in life. We want to be building things and helping other people. And that's economy. That's what economics is. That's why we can feed each other.
I want to go visit my mom, and I want to hug her. I want to see my nephews and nieces. I want to hang out with my friends. I mean, those are not unreasonable demands. And if it increases the risk of COVID a little bit, you know what? I'm okay with that. Right. And
by the way, are we going to put tuberculosis on this list of safety? And what about hantavirus? And what are you doing we had an outbreak? Look, we have massive rodent bloom here. What are you going to do with typhus? And what about when bubonic plague gets here? It's coming west. It was in Tahoe. It's coming. Are you going to freak out and hide in? I don't know. This is too much for me.
200 viruses and pathogens. 200 of them we live with as humans. I mean, we live with them. We don't destroy our lives around them. We deal with them if we have it, and then move on with our life.
Yeah, 200 dangerous pathogens you're talking about. You're talking about things that really are very, very dangerous.
And herpes.
And you have to throw that in there. Yeah, let's get back to getting a vaccine for that. BB.
Yeah, we need to cure that.
BB, what's going? Well, these antivirals have. Listen, a lot of stuff has moved forward because of COVID. A lot of stuff, and so I'm grateful for some of that stuff. BB, I'm trying to get you up to the microphone here, so do come up to the podium if you don't mind, because it's not just been mRNA vaccines that have been the advancement. There's been a lot of stuff that's moving rather quickly, and it's been nice to see. Well, it looks like BBMCC. Hey, BB, what's going on?
Oh, Dr. Drew, I'm so excited. I am your #1 fan, and Dr. Bhattacharya. Oh, this is so awesome. Thank you for doing this.
I like it.
Hyperventilate with excitement. And Susan, you're awesome the way you support him. I listen to everything. Adam Carolla has gotten me through the pandemic without taking an anti-anxiety medication.
Wow, fantastic.
You guys are great.
Thanks,
I love
baby.
your message. I listen to everything. Okay, so my husband and I are both over 50. So we decided we got vaccinated.
Okay.
We have a very healthy 17-year-old daughter who is a senior in high school. Oh my gosh, I'm starting to hyperventilate. She will start college in the fall. Initially, we thought we're going to wait till she starts college to get her vaccinated. We live in the state of Pennsylvania, and it's crazy, the push to vaccinate kids under the age of 18. I do listen to everything you say. I understand about the hybrid
Immunity.
Yes,
Hybrid
thank you very
immunity.
much.
Yep, well done.
But it's still, I have this daughter in a gray zone. She's healthy, she's active, her BMI is great, she has no medical problems. I tend towards thinking of waiting till the fall before she starts college to vaccinate her. But I fall prey to the media messaging and, I'm not doing my part, I'm not suppressing the viral replication. I was totally okay with the risk reward for myself in taking it because I thought it's the right thing to do. But what about these young, healthy female adolescents and the vaccinations that are low risk?
Yeah. And by the way,
I'm so excited. Thank you for taking my...
Well, BB, stay with us. We're so excited to have you. We're equally excited. So where you don't have to tell me the name of the school, but is it a school, as you go up the scholastic food chain, the restrictions get worse and worse and the demands become worse and worse, strangely enough. Is she going to a place that is highly restrictive and very anxious and, will not let her move about or even come on campus if she's not vaccinated?
She actually got an academic and athletic scholarship to Michigan State. So she's going to have to get it to go to college. But my question is, she's only a senior in high school, and the vast majority of the kids in her high school are vaccinated. We just decided the whole risk reward.
I hear you. We hear you. I hear you. But let's get to Bhattacharya. I'm not going to adulterate this with my opinion yet. And by the way, good for you for thinking it through. And before we ask Dr. Bhattacharya, let me ask this. Have you talked to her pediatrician or internist or family practitioner?
I did. I took her for her well child.
Hold on. I don't want to know what he or she said. I want to get Dr. Bhattacharya's opinion first.
This is one of these things where it could go either way, and I think it would be a perfectly reasonable choice. For young girls and young women, the mRNA vaccines have a much lower rate of myocarditis, unlike for young men, just like
much lower.
Much lower.
Much lower.
And so it's a safer vaccine for young women than it is for young men. And so, but at the same time, the risk of COVID, the harm from COVID, is actually quite low. In a lot of the risk profiles that people look at this, they say, okay, well, what's the myocarditis risk from the vaccine? I guess it's probably really low for young women. But then they compare that against the risk of myocarditis from COVID, which actually is a little higher. I think actually that's the wrong calculation. The question is, if you get the vaccine and then subsequently get COVID, what's the myocarditis risk from both together? I think it is. I can understand where you're coming from. It is a very you could make a reasonable decision in either direction. What would push me over to the other side is if your daughter isn't going to be denied opportunities in her life because of mandates, then I would argue you do it. I mean, it's just that.
It's funny. You and I have the same emotional sensibility on this because that's where I like the idea. And BB's already brought this up that we're helping each other by suppressing replication and all that stuff that sort of goes without saying. But I have this. What pushed me to get the vaccine is it was worth the risk for my freedom. Bottom line. And it's like it's the reality we are dealing with. You can't move about. It's highly restrictive and a major hassle if you're not vaccinated. All right, I'll put down that risk. Now maybe that's what everyone's intentions were to make the decision making fall down so massively in favor of vaccinating just so you can move about in the world. That's kind of an astonishing public health policy if that's really what they were doing. But I kind of have that same sensibility you have that way.
Yeah, and I think the problem is if that is I think that's as an individual you react that way, and I completely understand. As a policy matter, it undermines confidence in public health. You feel coerced instead of reasoned with. And I think that was and is a mistake. It's not necessary to stop the virus from spreading because it won't stop the virus from spreading. The vaccine doesn't. This vaccine doesn't do that.
So BB, I want to make sure we're getting your question. Is it should you vaccinate now versus just before college, or what is the
correct? Correct. That is the question.
It's kind of a toss up. You have some discomfort about now.
I have an argument for later.
Okay, go ahead. Let's hear it.
The argument for later is very simple.
better coverage. She's better covered. She'll be better covered for the first 6 months of school.
There may also be advances in our understanding of the vaccine. There could be new versions of the vaccine tested over time. There could be new vaccines available with better safety profiles. Waiting a year.
Okay.
That's what I think.
If you can.
Okay. So
No, I agree with that.
So Susan and Jay are saying, did you get with that reasoning, BB?
Oh, absolutely.
Yeah.
And you are such a voice of reason. And thank you for doing these podcasts.
Our pleasure.
Thank you for working. I listen to all of them. I tell everybody to listen to them, to think for yourself, and just thank you for doing this. And thank you for taking my
Thanks,
question.
BB. Susan and I want to come visit you. I can tell. I can feel Susan. I can feel Susan.
Can I say one more thing?
Didn't we just have that conversation?
Yeah.
Didn't we just have that conversation last week about
Yeah.
the kids getting vaccinations
Susan
when
is the
they're
wait
12?
and see mom. She's her thing is like the longer we can wait. She said if I had kids, I'd wait as long as possible to get as much data as possible to see where this thing goes.
If they're going to if they caught it and they just had a sniffly nose for a week, like, so what? Why would I give them a vaccine if they don't really need it? If they had reasons to get it, I'd get it for them,
Yep.
you know.
But Jay, go
wait
ahead.
till it's more advanced in time.
I mean, I think that reasoning is, I completely agree with it for kids. For older people, for whom COVID is a very deadly disease, if you're not vaccinated, please get it. Yeah, please get it.
100. And see, and let's be. I think it's such a almost an inspiring thing, right? Which is that you are advocating for a risk analysis. You know that you treat a 17-year-old different than a 9-year-old. Different than a 75-year-old. I was telling my 75-year-olds to get boosters before the boosters were approved because I could see the writing on the wall. I knew what was happening here, and I didn't want anybody getting sick because I got my people vaccinated early too. So they were waning immunity rapidly. And, these are very vastly different risk-reward diathesis in the balance here, and that's what we're supposed to do in medicine. I've spent the last 3 days emphasizing, you go see a doctor for a judgment, not for our knowledge base. The knowledge base goes without saying. The judgment to make the right call for the right patient, the right circumstance. That's what medicine is, and that's all been just abandoned. It makes me sick when I think about it. So it's heartbreaking to me. It's my profession.
100% on that. I mean, I think telling people to go see their doctor and have a reasoned discussion with the doctor, that is the right thing to do. Not this go get the vaccine or else you lose your life. That's just a mistake.
Or you're killing other people. Or, if you're not wearing a mask or if you're not getting a vaccine. That is a bizarre way of thinking about things. It's and it quickly, by the way, goes to unvaccinated people shouldn't be getting health care. Then it becomes people that make bad choices shouldn't be getting health care. I only treat people that make bad choices. That's my specialty, is treating people that have made lots of bad choices. Go to an emergency room. That's all that's there. People making bad choices. If it's a Stanford student wearing a face mask without a helmet, or it's one of my patients shooting heroin, all bad choices. They all deserve good health care.
I mean, medicine would be very easy if you only treated people that made good choices, Drew.
Yeah, right. We wouldn't have much to do. We'd be dealing with aging only. That's about all we'd be dealing with, and the unlucky. Okay, let me go back to the calls here. We're almost through here, Jay. By the way, thank you for your time. Hey, Josh, what do you got?
I just wanted to talk about the mental health aspects of the pandemic, and I was wondering if you guys could talk about how, let's say you have past trauma, and it's maybe not fully dealt with in therapy, and the pandemic comes and you're asked to shelter in place, you're not able, is a reverberation back to that early trauma, and how really is our mental health being affected by this?
So Jay, I'll let you answer that, but Josh, you actually made me shudder when you brought up shelter in place. That to me is one of the most. That's like you shelter in place during a nuclear holocaust. Where did they get off using that language? It was just that when that came up, I was like, what? What are you talking? What? Go ahead and tell us not to move around, but don't use shelter in place. Then, when there really is something serious, what language are we going to use? Anyway, I'll let you answer his question about the mental health. I've got some ideas.
It reminded me about like duck and cover. You protect yourself from nuclear blast by hiding under the desk. I mean, it's, but to answer Josh's question, I mean, I think it is absolutely normal for the kinds of isolation that these policies have caused to make you feel alone, to make you feel hurt, and to remember past trauma. That is, there was a CDC study that was done in June that found that 1 in 4 young adults seriously considered suicide in June of 2020. 1 in 4. It is absolutely normal, so don't feel alone, is what I'd say. Go get help. Find your family if you can find, if they can help you. Find your friends if they can help you. Find whatever resources you need so that you can get that feeling of loneliness, that feeling of depression, that feeling of anxiety addressed. Try and find ways to get your life back so that those things are addressed, as much as you possibly can. It's hard.
Brains heal other brains, and the skill of the treating brain actually needs to be pretty substantial to deal with trauma. But it's the treating person's brain that heals the other brain. And when you've disconnected from all that, all you're doing is re-traumatizing. Are you re-traumatizing the way you would somebody who, if you've had severe childhood trauma, you're prone to re-traumatization. Obviously, things like this can be highly anxiety-provoking and have lots of adverse effect. But the effect of this was way, way beyond re-traumatizing trauma survivors. This, again, the depression, anxiety scales, what we've done to 8 to 15-year-olds, it's just unconscionable. I mean, just look at the data on them. Just the fact that we handed them all screens had deleterious effects. The exposure to pornography dropped down to like age 8 or something. The amount of sexting, felony level sexting, went off the chart. I mean, there's a thing called Gaggle, I believe I did a speech for, Gaggle.com, and they have all that data posted there. It's astonishing when you see it, and it really jumps out in that 8 to 15-year-old category, which of course, that's the age of development when peer involvement is where the self-development is happening. And if you disconnect that, it's profound. Or if you interfere with it or adulterate it in weird ways, of course it will have consequences. The only bit of data that was a piece of good news in all of this, Gaggle.net. I'm sorry. Thank you, Caleb. Gaggle, Gaggle.net. The only piece of good news in all this was, even though there was a lot of suicidal ideation, completed suicides did not go up. Personally, I believe that happened because we were all on top of each other. We were all in our homes together, and there was no opportunity to sneak away and commit suicide. You might be thinking about it, feeling it, but the opportunity did not present itself. So that's good news. But that's the only piece of good news I saw in all the data.
Yeah, ditto. I mean, that is actually a huge cause for celebration if there's any.
Yeah, right. Well, I'm fearful. I'm fearful on the other side of it, we're going to see a tick up. That's the problem. So
that's what I'm scared of too, actually, because the trauma is not. Yeah. It has consequences. It's not like we can just turn the light switch off and then back on again. It's going to have. And so we're going to need to pour resources into to address that problem, especially in young people going forward.
Yeah, we literally became hysterical as a country. At least the Western societies became. I've seen the narcissistic turn in our personality constructs, and I think now we've moved towards histrionic, because the level of panic and the level of the thinking has been very nearly delusional, and that's a new thing. I don't know how we were so prone to that, and why the press was allowed to do that to us, and why the politicization, made it all worse. People going to one side of the boat or the other, which was both sides bad. So I urge everybody, I restore it. Let's rational recovery, rational revolution, we call this. We have a rational revolution, bring back rationality, and bring back thought without cognitive distortion to the extent that we're capable of that. Consult your Stoics, your Stoicism. I think Stoics go a long way to sort of a check on cognitive distortion. If you like philosophy, Stoics help us check we have glitches in our system, and try not to don't get engaged and don't get swept into the vortex. That's the summation of my advice. It's very simple, but that's it. Jay, I appreciate you being here so much, Dr. Jay Bhattacharya. Are you going to come up with any other sort of manifesto going forward? Are we going to see a Great Barrington 2 or anything? Something to guide us that people are ready to listen to, by the way? They might be a more receptive audience now, that's for sure.
I would love, I intend to continue to be involved in what I'm calling the Reformation. I mean, we have to reform public health, we have to reform science, but I think in my life I have one declaration in me, and so I don't know if I can have another declaration.
All right. Well, I think what just burned you out was the response, and we're in a different time a little bit. People are slowly waking up. I see it. For a year I was going, when is this going to end? I was asking, when do you think this is going to end? Where's the bottom? Where are we going? And I feel like there's at least a coalescing of people in the middle starting to look rationally at things and stop getting swept into stuff. And if it is just because the stakes are less, because we have multiple treatments and vaccines and we're doing a good job with the virus now, okay, that's fine. If that's it, that's good too. But you should also take a good look at the policies we brought in place during the darker days of this pandemic that were not just ineffective, destructive. And let's not do that again. Let's say this thing.
We have to have an evaluation of an honest evaluation of it.
Yeah.
We need to put in place, procedures, checklists, whatever it is, so that I think lockdown should be a dirty word. It should be anathema. It should have the same kind of resonance as nuclear war or chemical weapons or biological weapons.
I agree. That's a great. All right, I like that. That's your declaration going forward, where that we turn lockdown into a dirty word. I like that. It's turn it into the new N word or something. But that's fine with me. But that this virus could give us some more fits going forward, right? I mean, illnesses have a way of getting to, the viruses develop resistances and new patterns and whatever. And the important thing is that we don't make the mistakes of the past in response to whatever the virus presents to us. So we just keep pushing forward with what we know works. So,
I mean, this is
all right. Well, listen, a pleasure. Finish your thought. This is this is here forever, right? And it will have its twists and turns. Yeah. But let's deal with it like the way we deal with other things, and rational, without fear, with trying to develop resources, get and protect people. Don't panic people. Don't lock them up. Yeah. Panic never makes things better. Never. And histrionic, delusional thinking never makes things better. So let's brush aside the things that have made things worse, and let's focus on what works. And again, focus on leading a good life. Like Dr. Jay Bhattacharya, thank you so much for joining me. It's interesting. What's interesting to me is to have talked to you in the darker days, and now talk to you. Your thinking has evolved. Your perspective on what has happened here is clearer. It's the rearview mirror sort of seems to be putting things into focus for you a bit, and I hope you will continue to share your thoughts, because they are accurate and they need to be listened to, so we don't make the mistakes of the past.
Drew, it's a delight to talk with you. Thank you for having me.
Pleasure. Thank you so much, Dr. Jay Bhattacharya, everybody. And I will wrap everything else up now. Thank you, guys. I had trouble watching you guys on the restream because I was so involved with Dr. Bhattacharya. Iggy Pop says, Reformation of U.S. government dominated healthcare sounds good, if soon followed by a counter-reformation. Well, reformations do tend to be followed by a counter-reformation, so good for you. Thank you for those of you who are saying a great job with, it says Iggy Pop. Yeah, it says Iggy Pop. It's not the Iggy Pop, but it says Iggy Pop. And thank you for those of you who've been active here. I've seen Tom's cigars literally on fire, but I'm not sure what he was responding to. And he was upset that we didn't do any striking back, Susan. He wanted to see some strikes backs up there. So
that's because I wasn't here.
There was a call. Well, there were some opportunities in there. But I thought it was better to keep it.
So you lit a fire under him today. I missed the first half. So.
Yeah. Well, somebody got Tom's going. You blocked a lot of the people.
No, I meant the doctor.
Dr. Bhattacharya, yeah. So thank you on Clubhouse. I hope that was an interesting conversation for you all. We're going to end this room. And for everybody else, we have Alex Barrington on Monday, and we have...
I hope.
Is he flaking on us?
No, I don't know. I think Caleb was going to reach out to Michelle and
make
have
sure
her double check.
Okay. And Vinay Prasad on Tuesday. Look, if it's just Vinay Prasad, I'm very happy. Alex is a shit stirrer, and it'd be interesting to hear what his positions are. Again, I
just
like...
have to make sure.
I'll tell you what, if you can't get Alex in here, bring Kelly Victory. She will do the same thing.
So we can get our YouTube channel revoked?
Or we can just be over on Rumble.
We're due for a strike now. Yeah. It's a get a strike for Christmas here.
Caleb feels like we're not in the right zone.
We've been talking to doctors about it, so.
So, Susan, anything else for you? Want to say goodbye to BB?
I just want to say I had a horrible day trying to find a vet to look at my dog.
Really bad. Yeah.
So weird.
But some people that have been, the vet people who had been on this show, right? Or they were on a podcast with us.
Well, I called AirVet. That's the company we had on. We interviewed.
Yeah.
Because I've been calling them. I called them a couple times during COVID.
Yep.
But I don't know what happened to my vet. Like it used to be like a little, you could just walk in with your vet, your dog, or whatever. But maybe they're just understaffed now. And then they gave me a list of other emergency vet places, but you have to wait in your car for 6 hours. It's like a hospital.
No, forget it.
And I guess if
He's
your
not that- he's
dog
fine.
was just hit by a truck, they'll let you go in the front of the line or something. I don't know.
What
but,
did AirVet say?
Pepto-Bismol.
So they were very helpful, right?
Yeah, he was helpful.
All right, so there you go.
But it's weird because I guess I need to have a regular vet for the dogs now because I kind of put it off for a couple years. They've been so healthy. But
I don't think it would make any difference.
But he didn't throw up in the car once, so I figured
Right.
he was okay.
I don't think it would make any difference on the day before Thanksgiving.
I
think
when you
that's what the
Google
deal
it,
is.
it says if your dog is vomiting blood or it has foamy, gooey, blah blah blah,
Yes.
you got to take him to a vet and have him seen right away. So I said, okay, I'll do it. Couldn't get in anywhere.
Yeah.
It's the weirdest thing. It's like socialized medicine now. It's
Interesting.
really, really weird. And there's people with their animals are dying. I don't want to cut in front of them,
Right.
obviously,
No.
but
He's fine.
it's just really like. And then he went out to sniff all the dog pee. Of course he
course.
won't pee in public, but and they saw him running around.
He has
and
certain standards, Susan. You understand.
they saw him running around all healthy and everything.
Yeah.
I'm like, he's not an emergency. I'm like, I know he's not, but I can't get into my regular vet.
Right.
Like, I don't even know if they exist anymore.
Well, Caleb, happy Thanksgiving. It's the baby's first Thanksgiving. You got any special plans for that?
Oh, he's gonna see the family. He's just gonna.
Good.
Everyone's just going
Excellent.
to love him and everything. The usual.
No doubt. No
Gee.
doubt. Well, thank you for everything. I'm grateful for both of you guys. I'm grateful for those of you that join us on these streams. We're grateful for BB and her enthusiasm. We appreciate that very
Yeah,
much.
happy Thanksgiving
Happy
to
Thanksgiving,
everybody.
Keep a gratitude list in your head. That nothing can be more important than that at times like this. It'll keep you sane. It'll keep you kind of keep your oar in the water and keep your rudder directed in the right direction.
And keep
it
the
seems to me.
Pepto-Bismol on hand.
And for the dogs, keep the Pepto.
And yourself.
More Gaviscon for the humans. I don't know why the Pepto-Bismol for the dog, but I would say Gaviscon.
Yeah,
for the,
he's a vet. I'm not a vet.
so, and Rex will eat all that stuff. We don't have to worry about him. And some of you we're going to try to get Robert Paul Champagne in here. So let me know if you have any luck getting RPC. I'd be happy.
Well, apparently he wants to. But when are we going to do that?
Well, I'd say we
maybe
can
the
interview
week
him.
after next.
We'll interview him for this show. So he doesn't have to do a long interview. Just kind of come say hi, check in with him, see how he's doing. So if Casey, anybody else, if you have any.
And then I think Aaron Carter wants in too now.
Yeah, Aaron Carter just had a baby and he's.
But I think we're going to do a pre-tape on that. I can't do the trolls for hours.
Aaron.
People are
I'm not
just
Aaron's
such
doctor.
dicks.
I don't want to treat Aaron. I'm happy to be a resource for him and help him, but I'm interested in hearing about him, hearing what's going on.
I was on his Instagram live. I woke up at 5:30 in the morning and I saw him with his baby on Instagram live and I took a picture of it and I said, "Oh, congratulations," And he goes, "Oh, is that Drew's wife?" And I think so. And then he goes, "Oh, it is." And he pinned me, but I was just like, "It's so cute. He had a baby, but you don't want to piss him off. He'll block you."
Well,
he's like me. He has we have a lot in common. But
so look, the guy's living his life. It's good for him.
Well, and it's hard because like when you say something on Instagram or tweet or whatever, your voice may not really be coming through. It might sound like you're being sarcastic or mean. Well, you don't do that to that guy. He just goes, "You're blocked," and he blocks you. But he's tired of it. He's tired of being a famous person. It's pretty funny. I mean, it was a really sincere, cute moment. And he did say nice things about Drew. He said that you tried to help him when he was 21 and come on Celebrity Rehab. And
I wasn't, happy to just chat
he
with
liked
him,
what
that's
you
all.
said about him. And
Hey,
it was,
look,
he got very thoughtful about it. And I know he has a new baby. So maybe now's the time to really think seriously about his sobriety, and
that's up
really
to him.
invest.
That is entirely up to him. And maybe he's already thinking seriously about it.
I imagine he is.
We
all do that when we have
Matthew 7:1-3, King James Version. Matthew 7:1-3, everybody. I want this to be our new mantra in this country. Judge not that ye be not judged. It's that simple.
It's true.
Judge not.
I mean, I'm
everybody.
not perfect, you know. I had 3 kids. I had to
Judge
change
not.
my life.
This world of judging, stop it. It's in the scriptures. Matthew 7, 1-3, King James Version. Judge not that ye be not judged.
And get a fucking life.
Well, it's like, who amongst us who amongst us was Jesus' version of that?
I know.
Who amongst
I
us?
know.
So,
well, that's my version.
all right. So off we go, everybody. Have a great Thanksgiving. Caleb, we're going to wrap this up, and we thank you so much, and we will see you on Monday. Ask Dr. Drew is produced by Caleb Nation and Susan Pinsky. As a reminder, the discussions here are not a substitute for medical care, diagnosis, or treatment. This show is intended for educational and informational purposes only. I am a licensed physician, but I am not a replacement for your personal doctor, and I am not practicing medicine here. Always remember that our understanding of medicine and science is constantly evolving. Though my opinion is based on the information that is available to me today, some of the contents of this show could be outdated in the future. Be sure to check with trusted resources in case any of the information has been updated since this was published. If you or someone you know is in immediate danger, don't call me, call 911. If you're feeling hopeless or suicidal, call the National Suicide Prevention Lifeline at 800-273-8255. You can find more of my recommended organizations and helpful resources at Dr.